In the book of Judges, in chapters 17 and 18, there's a story about a man named Micah and his mother and a priest. And for time's sake, I'm not going to read both of those chapters, of course, but just going to take a moment and look at this story and something specifically that stood out as those of you who are reading through the Bible chronologically with me, and you read this passage, I would be not surprised at all if this same verse that we're going to really sit on today is something that stood out to you, because it really does make such a powerful point and a beautiful picture. So we're going to be in Judges 17 and 18 with this story about Micah and his mother and a priest. And basically what happened in this passage is Micah he and his mom had taken their silver and they had melted it down and turned it into idols, into carved images. They turned it into things that they would worship. And in the process of the story, a priest comes by and they end up meeting. Micah and this priest meet. The priest had left Bethlehem, Judah, and he was really just passing by, and he comes upon the house of Micah. Now, the thought here in this concept of this priest and what he does next, because if you read it like me, you're thinking, why would this priest do all of this? Well, as you will recall, we've been reading through Judges, and time again, the children of Israel, the Bible tells us they turned from the one true God and they began to worship other gods. And so over and over and over, this was the storyline of the children of Israel, turning away from God and looking to other gods to supply their needs. So in this place of turning away from God, it could have been that they also were turning away from the temple. And we know the priests were the ones who helped the people learn to worship. They tended to the needs of the temple. And so in this picture of the children of Israel turning from the temple and not worshiping God like they should, it could have been that they weren't paying their tithe to the temple and supporting the temple financially, which would also support the priest. So this priest has left Bethlehem, Judah, and he is passing by. And when he meets Micah offers him a job. And the job that Micah offers him is basically to be his personal priest over this little, temple, the shrine that he has set up with these false gods in his home. To kind of be the priest of, if you will, his own little religion. And of course, in this story, the priest accepts Micah's offer. Now, the story continues, and most of you who are reading through chronologically with us, you've already read it. You may be catching up and will read it. But it ends with the tribe of Dan at the end of the story coming through. And the tribe of Dan comes through and they steal all the idols. They steal the carved images. And they basically say to Micah, or they say to the priest, it would be better if you come with us and rule over a tribe instead of just one man. You would be the priest for the whole tribe, not rule over, but you would be a priest to this whole tribe instead of one man. And so, of course, the priest agrees. He leaves and he goes with them, and they set up a new temple in their newly gained territory that they went and conquered. That's the basic story in a nutshell. There's a few more details that I'm leaving out. But in chapter 17, we find a verse that, to me, this whole story sits on. It's the verse that explains to us, how did this happen? Why is this priest doing this? What is going on? This is crazy. And it says in 17 of Judges, chapter 17, verse 6, and here it is. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Think about that statement for a moment. There was no king in Israel, so everyone did what was right in his own eyes. There is so much wrong with this story, so much in this passage but all of it hinges, to me anyway, on this verse. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. The key in this verse is everyone and in their own eyes. Everyone was doing what they thought was right. It's kind of like today we hear people talk about live your truth. Live your truth. We're actually supposed to live God's truth. So when we live our truth, well, today I feel like this is true, and so I do what is right in my own eyes. I set up what is truth to me, and if I say it enough, and if I talk about it enough, and if I get some people to come along behind me and challenge and just kind of be the champion of my truth, then I'm doing what's right in my own eyes. Micah and his mother, it even tells us earlier in the chapter, in verse 3, it said that she had said to Micah, I dedicated all of this silver to the Lord. And now they have made it into carved images to make idols out of, to worship something that was originally dedicated to the Lord. And now they're worshiping these handmade idols. Of course, priests, as I said, they were set apart, anointed. They were consecrated. They were holy unto God to go in and teach the people how to worship, to tend to the needs of the temple. That was the role of priest, not for one person, but to the nation of Israel as a whole. That's what God had designed them to do. And now this priest has left his very calling. He is practicing priesting, if you will, for one man and for his little shrine and his little religion. It's an amazing story to me because they're doing what was right in their own eyes. They're doing what they felt was right. But look, if we're honest, we can be just as guilty. Oh, I know you probably don't have idols. Actually, you might have some idols in your house. If I looked around mine, I might have some idols. I might have some things that occasionally I put above God in my time that I spend on it. Some of it could be how much we're on our phone or how much we watch TV. I'm not against the phone or the TV that you see behind me. I am against things we put above God, and we make that the king of our moment, of our life, of our evenings. And then we begin to do what is right in our own eyes. We can be just as guilty of this. When we remove the king from the throne of our heart, because it said there was no king in Israel, when we remove the king from the throne of our heart, we will begin to do what is right in our own eyes. We begin to put our self-interest first. We ignore God's direction and we live in confusion when we don't stay submitted to God and keeping Him squarely on the throne of our heart. So I say today to you, to me, to all of us who love Jesus and we're serving the Lord, I say today we can just say to the Lord, Lord, I ask you to be the king of my life, to be the king of my heart. I invite you to sit on the throne in every area of my life, everything, so that I don't begin to do what is right in my own eyes, but I will always do what is right in yours.